Hello and welcome everybody. Welcome to this week's indoor rowing video analysis. This right there is Louis Garner. He's from the UK. Hasn't rowed too long, 18 months of rowing, 26 years old. Now during lockdown, he's working on his technique. Quite remarkable. Louis, I gotta say your technique is really good, considering the fact that you've only rowed for 1.5 years. Excellent job. And he sent me his footage and said he was working right now on making sure that he kept his rock over of the trunk during the leg drive during the first third or 2/3 before he would actually pivot. And he asked me for some feedback, which I happily provide. All right, Louis, wasn't easy to find something because you're doing a great job. But if you look closely, there are a couple of things we should address. First thing is, it is apparent that you're working on technique right now. And therefore, I do think that the overall workload is not as much as it usually is. So I'm curious to see what this looks like when you are in a situation where you row stroke grid 24 to 28 full force over the middle drive. I think this is where you see more mistakes happen. Nevertheless, great job for actually being able to do what you focus on. This is not easy. But there's one thing, one flaw, which is very interesting, but it says a lot about the difference between a linear erg and the boat. Now, if you watch closely, you've probably seen, let me play for a bit, at the catch. You see this? Up. Every time at the catch, there's a bit of an awkward motion. You have to look very closely to see it. Let me play that again. Now, let's follow that frame by frame. It's right here. You're not putting body weight on your oar handles. No, that's actually good. You're leaning forward, however, you manage to bring your hands up at the same time. So there's a lot of stress on your back right now at the catch. Nevertheless, you manage to keep your position very, very well. The problem is that just the fact that you're able to do this tells me that you're not really having a full force connection between your shoulders and hips right now. So right there should be a full force connection from your shoulders to your hips. So basically making it one straight line going down. And this is pretty normal, Louis, don't worry. Especially when you work on things, you have to be careful, however, that you don't go for optics only. The main criteria is that the flow of forces is exactly as you want. And although it looks good, I do have the impression that you're not under full load and that you basically keep the position, but it takes more time and more training sessions before you can actually let the full force run through the entire body and through the back. And right now, I do have the impression that there's a lot of focus to keep this part of your body straight. And I think you could have it a bit easier if you focused on your abdominal muscles. So the lower abs and lower abs and a bit above is actually the point where you should have a lot of resistance in terms of when you push with your legs. You should actually feel that there's a lot of force going right into your center of gravity, and your center of gravity would be right here. I just recently pointed this out to one of my athletes. Very similar problem. And it is important that this center of gravity, which is right there where the lower abs are, it's actually right there, this is where you want to have the entire force wearing. And instead of focusing on keeping your back straight, I would focus on letting the force from your feet travel right into your lower abs and then connect it over the shortest way possible with your lat and triceps. When you have this established, the rest is going to be very easy. And the upside of this is that you don't have to go so much by optics. You can also just can focus on how forces float through the body straight into your center of gravity. When I worked with Anna Malvina, the Swedish rower, prior to Rio, we had this metaphor for a cannonball. It's like huge cannonball you hold there, like rugby, it's mine, and all the force goes right into that. And it's not just the back that becomes hunched, no, it's the abs. And when you focus on the abs, the back naturally stays straight. Okay, now with all this said, let's just move on a bit. Yeah, and now you would have more load through your legs. However, this is still great. And Louis, the good thing is that as you're not a rower, not a long-term rower, your legs are not over-proportionally strong. And I do think a lot of rowers focus way too much on legs and use leg power to solve any possible technical problem. And therefore legs are usually overpowered. They overpower the trunk, triceps, arms, and therefore simply lead to a lot of injuries. And this is not the case with you. So I think for you, this is almost an upside because your strength is more evenly distributed throughout the entire body. Okay, now let's have a look at our catch position once more. Why is it that the seat moves back just before you are driving, just before your leg drive really comes into effect? And I looked at this for quite a while, and the problem is a mechanical one, which is very difficult to solve and shouldn't be solved on the linear erg indoor rower. In the boat, when you move outwards with your hands, let me show you what I mean. In the boat, your chest bone is much easier to be stabilized here at the catch. And this is not the case on the linear erg. Here in the boat, this is a bi-rower, but it's got the same setup as a boat. Your hands move out, just like you do in a boat. If your hands move out, your chest bone has a lot of space to move. And the last bit of reaching out cannot be done on the linear erg because all you can do is reach forward and become more hunched. And this is exactly what's happening, because here in a boat native setup, the hands reach out, you have that full range, and now the chest bone actually has space to stabilize the entire system. And you see this is Martin, he's an Austrian rower, a very good one. You see his arms move out, and there's almost no hunch just before the catch. Very stable, very naturally, just reach out, pretty effortless. And if we look at Louis, you're rowing right here. You see you want to do the same thing, you want to reach out now, but there's no space, all you can do is this one. And this makes it pretty tight for the chest bone, and therefore you become a bit hunched. And as you become hunched, your center of gravity changes a bit. So your center of gravity moves from around here a bit further forward to around, probably right there. And in order to compensate for this, you have to create a bit of distribution, and therefore you see it moves a bit back just before you do the main drive. Have a look at this. That's exactly, it's just being in balance again. Center of gravity shifts forward, seat moves backward, distributed. And you wouldn't stay in this position for a long time, but on the linear erg, this is probably the only way to compensate this. And Louis, the way to change this right there is just don't try to reach that much forward, because your intention is to reach outward. It is not possible, but reaching forward is not the solution. You should just try to keep your arms where they are. Don't try to open the arms. It's just not possible in this device. And then you will probably also get rid of this unnecessary seat motion. Yeah. There are two ways to compensate for this. This is the better way to compensate. The way that's not so good is, and I see this quite a lot, when people either cramp with the shoulders or pivot with the upper body very early. So yeah, overall said, Lewis, this is a great job, and there's not much to for me to discuss that's not going well. There's just that one warning: don't try to lean, don't try to reach out, because it results in a lean forward on the linear erg, and if you then transfer this technique into the boat, you will be inefficient. So I would just not go that far forward, and you can also always change this in the boat later on. That's the best solution I have for you right now. And then again, when you row and change your technique, as you have done now, make sure that you work into your center of gravity and think about that cannonball and have a nice solid drive from your feet right into your center of gravity. All right, guys, that's it for today. I hope it was helpful. Very, very good indoor rowing technique, I've got to say that. And yeah, if you want to send me your footage, go to rmtraining.com. There's a dedicated section called video analysis, and there I describe how to do it. There's a free video analysis like for Lewis. If everybody benefits, I'm happy to do this. There's a paid service if you want to keep it private, absolutely legitimate, but I cannot do private video analysis for free. Just there's so many requests, I cannot do it. If you want to post your indoor rowing, post it in the indoor rowing Facebook group. Recently founded, in the first couple of days, got 100 members or so. It's growing, it's going to be pretty large pretty soon. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to meet you all there. Very interesting discussions going on. Good, that's it for today. I wish you all the best, looking forward to see you soon. Bye-bye.